With the release of Nosferatu, it's time to rank all 4 Robert Eggers films from my least favorite to my favorite. Welcome Cinema, where we focus on a film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of Robert Eggers as a director, how you would rank his films from your least favorite to your favorite, so we can have a nice discussion, because we all have different preferences, different takes on movies, so we can have this nice community down in the comments below. Make sure to like this video if you enjoy it, subscribe if you haven't already to join in film culture community, where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole, and getting right into it. In last place, we have The Witch. Now, putting this in last place is by no regards. I still have love for this film, for the nature of what it's doing with the debut that Robert Eggers pulls off. Its steps along the way still builds up this world that's isolated and really grand in the nature of being simplistic, but also taking on these religious effects, these cultural effects, what you're doing this with this early English century, and being able to give on the right accents, other debuts for the actresses, the actors, what we get out of the kids doing great performance for them. There's many small things that I could nitpick along the way about how certain things come about, but it's by no bother to where I can still really highly enjoy this, not only as something that really builds upon its story, but as an art piece that really expands upon its bleak environment, really going into a different sort of gothic horror vibe that takes on its own nature, builds upon its environment, takes risks with what it's doing with its characters, showing there's real stakes to the story, and the mysterious effect of what is going on with the witches, things that you don't necessarily see all the way, but the gradual builds up to something that's grand and something that's definitely worth the time. And for being the shortest film in his filmography at 90 minutes, it almost doesn't feel that way. It feels much longer, but still is deserving of what it all has to offer by the end of the day. And at number 3, we have The Lighthouse. Again, an isolated piece that's black and white in its film noir setting, what it's doing with the camera lens, everything that it's doing with the setting and the isolation of Robert Eggers, in building up all the scenery, what he's doing with William Dafoe, Robert Pattinson. They're 2 great performances, basically the only 2 characters in the film as a whole, making you wonder how it's going to end, where things are going to go next. It's a fever dream to some extent with where it's going to some environment, but you're understanding the character deprivation that is based on the isolation that they are taking on, and just so how they all give off these great performances, give off these weird accents. Now there's farts here and there, things that aren't necessarily the most appealing of the film, but still makes sense to the nature of what all is going on in the atmosphere, the nature of the characters, how they're building them up, and also breaking them down to their bare bones of being humans, deprived of everything, deprived of the natural nature of community, being able to reach out to people, do other things. And so everything is just so weird in all the best ways that really builds upon the craft and the black and white picture. How that gets pulled off within the film itself just adds in a nice little flavor that without color does so much for what the environment and the setting does as a whole. And at number 2, we have Nosferatu. Now, I haven't seen the original Nosferatu or the 1979 version, so I can't comment on comparison, but taking this on its own picture, not having known what to expect, not knowing how it compares to other forms of Dracula or other vampires, what we got out of Orlok, Bill Skarsgård is a great transformation. How they pull off the cinematography, the effects, the makeup, the hairstyling, everything that builds up to make this something weird but so immersive to an environment. It's something that's picturesque to the nature of what it's doing with film as an art, taking back you in time, and being able to blend in all the right character motives, being able to understand where things are going at certain points. There's not necessarily the quickest pace, and it is one of the longer films outside of the Northman, but still being able to enjoy and understand what all is going on without having known what was going to happen to begin with led me into giving it a rewatch in theaters, which I don't often do. And so just the way they really gradually build upon these characters, the demonic plague, the curse that's all going on throughout the town, it really feels exactly as it's meant to feel: old-timey, ancient, a foreign land. And being able to understand and look at the vampire make it feel so surreal to the nature of the curse that's being built up from the very beginning prologue and everything that's going about along the way. Nicholas Hoult giving a great performance. Lily Rhodes Depp, how she is so compelled by the nature of everything that is all going about, takes this film in a direction I had no idea it would have. Of course, having not seen the original or known the original story to base it off of, but even that just bases my opinions in so much better directions for the way that, with an unbiased opinion, I absolutely love what Robert Eggers still does with his work to this day. And that leaves at number 1, we got The Northman. Now, this is one that I just really enjoy. The Norse mythology, the culture that it's all built up, it's basically on par to all the rest of the films that I just talked about, but it still edges out along the way with all of these different sort of fights, the longest scenery that's going on throughout the whole film as a whole, being able to build all these characters. We got Nicole Kidman, we got Ethan Hawke, and everything that's going on with other Skarsgård, other characters that really beats up the masculinity, the cultural that's intertwined within how they're establishing the setting, building up all these different chapters of the story without really leading you on to make it dumbed down to the nature of what all is pulled off. That immerses you once again within the environment, within this bleak type of setting, but not necessarily the bleak type of setting like the others. It's just having its own feel that still brings me into watching it time again. And so being able to understand the world, not necessarily understanding all the technicalities because I'm not necessarily associated and understanding the culture at that time, but Robert Eggers still manages to craft something that makes it still appealing, not only as an art form, of course being in film, but still being able to build upon this story. And while it may be slow paced, one of the slower films of what his filmography has to offer, it's still something that once it really builds you into the action, once it creates all these different tribes, these different settings, these different lands, it really brings you on a whirlwind of emotions that really immerses you into isolation and everything that is going on with the environment, bringing it onto a big finale by the end. And that's my ranking of Robert Eggers, all 4 films from my least favorite to my favorite. Let me know down in the comments below how you would rank his films from your least favorite to your favorite. Make sure to like this video if you enjoy it, subscribe if you haven't already to join in the film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. If you have any ranking suggestions for directors or franchises, let me know down in the comments below, and you can check out some of my other director rankings that I have here on this channel just as well. So that's just all, and make sure to do yourself a favor and go watch a movie.